in the silence of a penthouse built on ego and billions. A knock at the door rewrites everything. A pair of crying infants, a note that says, "Fix your life." And a man forced to face the past he buried. Power can't help him now. Love will. Where in the world are you watching this from? And what time is it for you right now? The late afternoon sun hung low over the horizon like a molten coin, casting a warm golden haze across the sprawling skyline of Metropolis. From the 37th floor of the Sterling Holdings Tower, the city below shimmered like a mirage, a perfect reflection of power, ambition, and untamed ego. The glass facades caught the light in sharp, precise angles, like blades of ambition turned toward the heavens. Inside one of the corner offices, Ethan Whitmore stood in a moment of meticulous silence, adjusting the knot of his charcoal Tom Ford tie in the window's reflection. His suit was tailored to perfection. The fabric hugged his frame with quiet authority. His cufflinks caught the sunlight's small bursts of silver light that said, "I've arrived." He wasn't the CEO. That title belonged to Mr. Thompson, a no-nonsense relic of the old guard who still carried a leather briefcase and wore the same navy suit every Monday, like a uniform of austerity. But Ethan was the face, the handshake, the deal closer, the one who turned cold contracts into warm champagne toasts. If Metropolis's elite nightlife had a throne, Ethan sat on it in pressed slacks and a knowing smirk. Behind him, the soft whoosh of an elevator door opening was followed by quick, confident footsteps. A voice dry with mischief and lined with familiarity cut through the stillness. "Ethan, if you adjust that damn pocket square one more time, I swear your ego's gonna apply for its own office." Ethan turned, already grinning. Ryan Caldwell, his closest friend and longtime colleague, leaned against the glass doorway with his usual effortless charm. Ryan was the kind of man who always smelled like cedarwood in fresh linen, his blonde hair slightly tousled in a way that suggested both wealth and carelessness. His tailored navy blazer was unbuttoned, his posture casual, but his eyes sharp. "Just making sure I look respectable," Ethan replied, brushing a speck of lint from his lapel. "These investors are serious players. First impressions, my friend." Ryan rolled his eyes, the gesture familiar and affectionate. "Impression compression. Ethan, they're not here for your tie. They're here for that silver tongue you use like a scalpel. Just, maybe try not to end up sleeping with someone's wife tonight." Ethan smirked, the kind that had diffused countless confrontations and landed more deals and phone numbers than he could remember. Life's boring without a little danger. Don't you think? Ryan walked in further, resting a hand on the polished walnut desk. His expression softened, but a trace of concern flickered beneath the sarcasm. "You're 34, man. You've climbed the ladder, sure. You've got the penthouse, the corner office, the Amex with no limit. But this lifestyle, the late nights, the random hookups, the constant sprint, it's not sustainable. One day, Ethan, all the women you're cycling through like Spotify playlists, something's going to hit you back. Hard." Ethan chuckled lightly, strolling over to the crystal decanter by the minibar. He poured himself a slow, deliberate glass of Lagavulin 16, the rich amber liquid catching the last rays of daylight. "Please," he said with a lazy grin, "karma doesn't touch men like me. I never lie, never promise anything. They know the deal. If someone catches feelings, that's on them." Ryan didn't laugh this time. He studied Ethan for a long moment, then crossed his arms. "You think you're untouchable, but women aren't disposable. They're not streaming services you subscribe to for a weekend and cancel by Monday. One day, someone's going to leave something at your door. Maybe not revenge, maybe not heartbreak, but something that'll make you stop cold." Ethan raised his glass in a mock toast. "You sound like a priest. Just admit it. You want me to marry your sister." Ryan chuckled but shook his head. "Lucy. She'd rather marry a man who drives a school bus and rescues stray cats than end up as one of your, what do you call them, rotational weekends." Ethan clinked his glass against Ryan's water bottle with a theatrical flair. "Two rotational weekends," he said with a grin. The two men laughed, and just like that, the tension dissolved into the soft clinking of glass and the gentle hum of ambition vibrating through the floor. They had spoken for nearly an hour, an unusually long conversation for Ethan Whitmore, especially with a stranger who gave nothing away. She hadn't told him her name, and oddly, he hadn't asked. There was something about her quiet self-possession, the way she never leaned in, never flattered, never blinked under his gaze, that disarmed his usual need to dominate a conversation. When she stood to leave, she didn't offer a number or even a goodbye. Instead, she leaned in, gently pressed a folded napkin into his palm, and with a nod so subtle, it felt like a secret disappeared into the thrum of the club. Ethan slowly opened the napkin, expecting a phone number, a flirtation, a name. But there was only one line written in smooth cursive. Not every gift is wrapped in ribbon. He blinked, confused, then looked up. But she was gone. The bar was full, the music still pulsing, but she had vanished as though she'd never been there at all. Ethan sat still for a moment longer, the napkin resting in his palm like a riddle. Then, shrugging off the unease, he slipped it into his jacket pocket and left. At 2:37 in the morning, Ethan stumbled into his penthouse in the East End, a sleek modern sanctuary of polished wood floor-to-ceiling windows and carefully curated minimalist design. He kicked the door shut behind him, his designer shoes dangling from one hand, his shirt half unbuttoned and untucked, reeking of expensive liquor and equally expensive perfume. The lights inside the apartment glowed dimly, set automatically to a soft ambiance that highlighted the marble countertops and framed artwork, but tonight it all felt hollow. He tossed his keys on the quartz counter, yawned heavily, and trudged barefoot toward the kitchen, mumbling to himself. All he wanted was a glass of cold water and 8 hours of dreamless sleep. Then he heard it, a soft sound muffled high-pitched, like whimpering. He froze mid-step. His heart skipped. Was it a dream echo from a film he forgot to turn off? It came again, clearer this time. Wah! Wah! The sound cut through the silence like a blade. He slowly turned his head toward the front door, his senses sharpening. Every sound in the apartment vanished under the weight of that tiny cry. Setting his glass down without drinking, Ethan moved toward the hallway. His body stiffened with each step, the floor cold beneath his feet. As he approached the door, the sound became unmistakable, a baby's cry, small, tremulous, human. His hand hovered over the doorknob for a moment before turning it. The heavy front door creaked open, and there, in front of the doormat, placed with unsettling precision, was a woven straw basket. Inside, nestled against soft-patterned blankets, lay 2 tiny infants. Newborns, 2 baby girls, matching wraps in soft earth tones, not pink and frilly, but rich and hand-stitched, their intricate embroidery hinting at something intentional personal. One baby was fast asleep, face scrunched in perfect peace. The other had begun to stir her delicate mouth, quivering, before releasing another soft wail. Pinned to one of the blankets was a piece of torn notepaper, the handwriting rushed unsteady. You don't know me, but they know you. Fix your life. Ethan staggered back instinctively, breath caught in his chest. His pulse thundered in his ears. Ryan's voice, sharp, half-joking, but now impossibly real, echoed in his mind. One day, someone will leave something at your door. And it had come. Not with threats, not with fury, but with 2 babies, wrapped not in ribbon, but in what felt like karma. He stood frozen, barefoot, bare-chested, the dim light from the hallway casting long shadows over the smooth tiles. The luxury of the space, sleek, sterile, curated, suddenly felt alien. The cries of the baby, soft but persistent, reverberated off the glass and stone like some primal alarm. He inched closer. The first baby stirred again, letting out a hiccup before settling. The second yawned, a tiny, helpless gesture. Her hand, no bigger than a grape, reached up toward nothing. Ethan's breath trembled. A second note, half tucked beneath a fold in the blanket, fluttered loose as the infant moved. He picked it up with shaky fingers. You don't know me, but they know you. Fix your life. They are yours. 5 months old. Name them if you want to be a real father. The words hit like a sledgehammer. He reeled backward, one hand gripping the wall for balance. His face twisted in disbelief, anger, denial. Mine, he whispered. The word came out hoarse, broken. No, no, no. This is insane. This is a mistake. He spun and rushed to the kitchen, snatching his phone off the counter. His fingers fumbled, heart-pounding. He scrolled "Found George the concierge on duty downstairs" and hit call. It rang twice. "Hello, Mr. Whitmore." George's voice was groggy, half asleep, British accented and polite. Ethan barked. "George, did anyone come up to my floor tonight? Anyone with children? A basket? Did you see anything at all?" There was a pause. Then, "Sir, children. I'm sorry, did you say?" "Children. Yes, George. There are 2 babies outside my apartment door, in a damn basket." "Did anyone pass through anyone's sign in surveillance?" I don't believe so," Sir George said, clearly rattled. "The front desk has been quiet since before midnight. I've not seen anyone go up." Still on the line, Ethan stormed out into the hallway again. The basket was still there. The babies, still breathing, still real. His building was quiet as a crypt. No movement, no doors creaking open, just the ambient whisper of central air. He stared down at the girls. They weren't a prank. They weren't dolls or hallucinations. They were real, and someone believed they were his. George's voice returned lower, now hesitant, a shade more careful. "Sir, Mr. Whitmore, forgive me, but I didn't see anyone. Since about 9:30, I locked the main gate tight. I've been inside the security post watching the monitors, eating peanuts, flipping through cable channels. Not a soul passed through my side. No one with a basket. No one at all." Ethan gripped the edge of the kitchen counter, his knuckles whitening. The weight of disbelief pressed down on him like a migraine. Then how the hell did they get in, George? You're telling me babies just appeared in front of my apartment door? What, you just sleep through everything now? There was a defensive shift in George's tone. "I wasn't asleep, sir. I promise you that. I take my duties seriously. But whatever left those babies, it didn't come through me. That was not a physical visitor, Mr. Whitmore. That was spiritual business. And with all due respect, sir, your karma is yours to handle. My job's guarding the doors, not the supernatural." Ethan gritted his teeth so hard it made his temples ache. "Don't start with this nonsense. Karma. These aren't ghosts, George. These are babies. Human babies. Real ones crying, breathing wrapped in blankets like a freaking storybook. Somebody came through that building. They had to use the elevator, the garage, something. Check the security footage. I can check the tapes in the morning, sir. But if I may..." George paused, then continued with a sobering gravity. "If the note says the babies are yours, then maybe they are. Women don't go around dropping children at men's doors as a prank. Not women with faces that serious." Ethan ran a trembling hand over his hair, pacing across the pristine hallway. His bare feet slapped softly against the cold tiles, but he barely noticed. The panic came in waves, sharp, irrational, and loud. The baby's cries resumed, first a whimper, then a full wail. Then the second joined in, and together the sound sliced through the silence like an air raid siren. It was well past midnight. Slowly, like approaching a bomb, Ethan crouched near the basket again. He stared at them. Their tiny faces were scrunched in distress, their cheeks damp, their fists flailing with a helpless rhythm that made his chest constrict. One had a faint birthmark on her left cheek, a small crescent of darker skin. The other had a single curl plastered to her forehead with sweat. They were beautiful. They were human. And in a way that rattled him to his core, they looked like him. His mouth opened, but no sound came. His eyes fluttered, blinking away the sting. "This can't be real," he murmured. "This is a setup, a scandal waiting to happen. Someone's trying to ruin me." But the words from the note pulsed in his head like a drumbeat. "Fix your life." He glanced at his phone again as if it could rescue him from reality. "George," he said, quieter now, almost pleading, "what if someone snuck in through the fire exit or bribed the elevator guy? Or..." Sir George cut in his voice, oddly calm now. "You live on the 12th floor. Nobody hauls a basket of babies up 12 flights unless they're a lunatic or a ghost. And no offense, sir, but those babies don't look supernatural. They look hungry, and like they need their father." Ethan closed his eyes and inhaled sharply through his nose. "I don't have kids," he muttered more to himself than anyone. "Maybe you don't know you do," Sir George said, voice unwavering. "You're a bachelor in the fast lane. One girl today, another tomorrow. You move like a man who never expects consequences. Maybe tonight." They caught up. Ethan nearly snapped, but stopped short. What was the point? The damage, if that's what this was, had already been done. The line went quiet. He hung up the silence inside the penthouse, now roaring with implication. He stood there frozen. The basket, the note, the babies, the brushed steel, the designer furniture, the gallery walls, it all felt alien now, as if the apartment belonged to someone else. Someone still in control. He began pacing like a caged animal. Okay, this is temporary. It's a mistake. Someone will come back. They'll realize what they've done. They'll take them back." His voice cracked. He turned on all the lights one by one, overcompensating for the unknown. Then with trembling hands, he poured himself a shot of single malt, tossed it back in one gulp, and returned to the basket. The crying had settled. The girls were quiet now, not asleep, but watching. Alert. Innocent. Ethan stood over them like a man haunted by a prophecy. "You're not mine," he whispered almost like an incantation. "You're not..." And then one of them opened her mouth and let out a sharp, squeaky cry. It hit him like a needle to the chest. God. He bent down awkwardly, scooping the first girl into his arms. She was so small, so impossibly warm, and the moment she touched his chest, her cries stopped. Her eyes met his. Big, dark brown, and blinking. Ethan Whitmore, who had closed million-dollar deals without flinching, who'd seduced women and charmed billionaires, felt something crash through him. Fear. Not fear of scandal or headlines or legal trouble, but something deeper. The raw, ancient fear that comes when you stare into a child's face and see yourself and realize you're not ready. Not even close. The second baby whimpered. Without thinking, Ethan reached down and picked her up too. Now both girls were in his arms, their weight unfamiliar, their warmth undeniable. One of them rested her cheek against his collarbone. The other let out a small sigh, almost a coo. Tears welled in his eyes quietly, involuntarily. What kind of curse was this, or what kind of second chance? He carried them to the living room, moving like a man walking through water. He sank slowly onto the long gray couch, still holding both girls, his heart pounding under their fragile bodies. His phone buzzed. A message from Ryan. "Bro, you get home safe." Ethan stared at it. For a second, he almost laughed. Then he almost screamed. Then he did neither. Instead, he typed Ryan. "There are babies at my door. They say they're mine." He hit send. He looked down. One of the girls gave a toothless yawn and nuzzled closer to his chest. He exhaled shakily. "Your names," he whispered. Not sure who he was talking to anymore, are not Karma. But in his gut, in that cavern of truth that no one ever talks about, he knew what they were consequences. And maybe, just maybe, a beginning. At 1 o'clock in the morning, Ethan Whitmore, who had once negotiated billion-dollar mergers under crushing pressure, talked down ruthless investors in high-stakes foreign boardrooms, and quite shamelessly seduced a former Miss Spain and her sister in the same weekend without ever loosening his tie, sat in silence. He had always been a master of presentation manipulation and unwavering self-control. But tonight, two 5-month-old baby girls, both under 2 feet tall and wrapped in chaos, had absolutely dismantled him. He wasn't sure if the crying had ever stopped or if he had simply gone temporarily deaf. His head throbbed, his eyes burned, and he could barely tell which baby was in his arms and which one was flailing in the luxury stroller, a stroller he was certain he didn't remember buying. He'd lined it with one of his $400 throw pillows in a half-conscious attempt to make it more baby-friendly. It hadn't worked. Okay, this one first. Ethan muttered, sweat running down his temple, attempting to rock the wailing child in his arms. No need to scream, sweetheart. Daddy's here. Daddy Ethan. Or Uncle. Oh God, who am I right now? The baby's mouth opened wide, a tiny trumpet of destruction. Her lungs, though small, were industrial strength. Ethan's designer shirt was stained. His perfectly tailored tie had been untied and now sat tied around his head like some absurd postmodern warband. His penthouse, pristine only hours ago, now looked like it had been ransacked by a very specific, extremely vocal tornado. He was sweating through silk. He looked like a madman in a 5-star asylum. He sprinted to the kitchen for the 5th time in under an hour. "Milk! I need milk!" He shouted at no one. "Where the hell does milk come from? Not champagne, that's all I've got. Bottled water caviar. This place is stocked like a Bond villain's yacht." He lunged for his phone. The screen read 1:10 a.m. He scrolled frantically and dialed the only person he could imagine picking up Liam, his housekeeper's teenage son, street-smart, fast-talking, and the one who once delivered toilet paper to Ethan during lockdown. Using a drone. Liam Ethan barked the second the call connected. A groggy voice answered. "Boss, what's formula?" Ethan yelled. "Baby milk bottles, diapers, wet wipes. I don't know what the hell I need. Just get everything you'd find in a baby aisle and bring it. Now I'll pay you triple quadruple. Just move." Liam, used to Ethan's flair for chaos, simply yawned. All right. Give me 20. Ethan hung up, dropped the phone onto the counter, and then heard it. A new sound. He turned slowly. The baby in his arms had gone silent. Too silent. Ethan pulled back the blanket, slowly, fear rising like steam in his chest. No. Oh my God, it was not just a diaper accident. It was a biohazard event, a containment breach, something that defied diapers, clothing, physics, and mercy. Why, Ethan wailed to the ceiling, spinning in place like a broken compass. Was it Sandra Ellie, that one lawyer from downtown? Which of you cursed me? The baby, now visibly more comfortable, sighed in absolute contentment. "Oh, you feel good now, huh?" Ethan groaned, looking down at the ruined silk shirt she had baptized. "This was custom made in Milan, you tiny demon." As if cued by dramatic timing, the second twin began to cry. Ethan panicked. Okay, I'm one man, one. He cried out to the heavens. He laid the first baby carefully, lovingly, like a precious but highly unstable artifact on a folded towel on the counter and ran to the other child. She was furious, red-faced fists pumping in the air, legs kicking with terrifying coordination. A one-person martial arts demonstration. "I'll feed you, I swear. Just give me 30 seconds. He paused. No milk. Still no milk. Damn it. Then, a new sound. Squish. He froze. He turned around. The second baby had joined the revolution. Ethan dropped to his knees like a man at the altar of chaos. 2 babies, 2 blowouts, 1 man, no plan. Tears stung his eyes. He crawled to the laundry basket like a defeated general retreating from battle. Inside, he found an untouched white Oxford shirt, expensive, beautiful, blissfully clean. He grabbed kitchen scissors. "This is now." "Diaper 1, he muttered, snipping straight through the fabric. Then his undershirt. "Diaper 2, handmade with tears." He wrapped each baby with trembling hands, swaddling them with far more care than he'd ever shown to any investor. "I swear this is how men die young," he whispered to no one. Then he caught a glimpse of himself in the hallway mirror, hair sticking up in 3 directions, eyes bloodshot, beard damp, socks stained, a red silk tie tied around his head, like a warrior who had lost the war. He looked absolutely devastatingly defeated, and somehow in the silence, as both babies drifted off swaddled in Versace in panic, he stood there holding them both, chest heaving. "God," he whispered, barely audible, "let me survive this night, and I swear, I'll change. I'll delete Tinder. I'll delete Instagram. I'll delete women from my vocabulary. I'll volunteer at a shelter every Sunday. I'll teach yoga to rescue dogs. Please." Ding dong. The doorbell. Ethan nearly kissed the marble floor. He yanked the door open to find Liam standing in plaid pajama pants, rubber slippers, and a hoodie holding 2 giant grocery bags and wearing a look of frozen disbelief. "Jesus, boss," Liam said, stepping in. "You're sweating like a horse at a Kentucky Derby. What the hell happened?" Ethan stepped aside and pointed wordlessly to the living room. 2 babies, both sleeping, wrapped in the remains of his wardrobe, looking peaceful, innocent, like nothing had happened. "Enter," Ethan said, voice cracking. "You're my only hope. Feed them. Wash them. Wash me. Punch me if you need to. Just don't leave me." Liam grinned, already unpacking bottles and wipes. "This is karma, boss. All those women you ghosted, the universe just ghost dropped twins on your ass." Ethan didn't argue. He was slumped on the floor, rocking slightly, eyes hollow. "Liam," he said hoarsely, "do you know how to sterilize baby bottles?" Liam raised an eyebrow. "Sterilize, man, I'm not a nurse. But we'll figure it out." At 2:53 in the morning, Ethan Whitmore finally sat down again for what felt like the first time in a decade. The twins had been fed barely. Diapers had been changed poorly, but done. The couch had been disinfected by Liam, who handled the mess like a war medic on his final shift. The apartment, though, still bearing the marks of chaos, had found a momentary stillness. It wasn't peace, but it was something close. Ethan sat cross-legged on the couch, his head resting against the backrest, utterly drained. His shirt was half-buttoned and soaked both from sweat and milk. A bottle dangled loosely from his left hand. Both babies, Charlotte and Rachel, lay curled up against his chest, their tiny bodies warm and finally still. Their soft breaths rose and fell against his shirt. He didn't dare move. He whispered into the dark, mostly to himself, "I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want from me. But if this is punishment, dear God, please, don't send triplets." A soft orange hue crept in through the gauzy white curtains of the living room, painting thin golden lines across the hardwood floor. The dawn light was slow and forgiving, the kind of light people without children take for granted, the kind that made even Ethan's cold, steel-accented penthouse feel warm. Across the room, the twins now rested inside a makeshift bassinet, one of Ethan's custom drawers lined with cashmere blankets, and an oversized pillow from a discontinued Armani home collection. It looked absurd. It looked like it shouldn't work, but they slept. Liam tiptoed past, moving like a man twice his age. He clutched 2 empty plastic bags in one hand, his hoodie askew, his lips chapped from exhaustion. "Boss," he whispered, barely audible, "I've got to go now. Morning shift at the market. I sell batteries near Westlake. My cart opens at 7. Ethan, still slumped on the couch, blinked at him slowly. His body ached, his limbs numb. "Batteries," he rasped. Can't you just sell excuses today? Liam gave a weary smile. Boss, you wear watches worth more than my rent. I sell batteries. I don't get the luxury of slow mornings. Ethan looked down at the drawer, then at Liam, then at his own reflection in the TV screen across the room. His navy blue trousers were wrinkled and stained with spit-up and formula. His hair defied gravity. He smelled like he'd been stuck in a barn with a bottle of milk and no exit. He let out a heavy breath. Thanks, Liam. Seriously, I owe you something priceless. Liam gave a casual salute with 2 fingers. I'll just tell my mom I did a double shift, night security and surprise nanny. And with that, he slipped quietly out the door. Ethan tilted his head back and closed his eyes. 5 minutes, he mumbled. Just 5. Sleep took him mid-thought. It was 6:43 in the morning when the phone rang with the force of a fire alarm slicing through his unconsciousness like a blade. Ethan jolted upright, wild-eyed, breath catching in his throat. His hand knocked over an empty bottle. One of the twins stirred with a soft cry, reminding him it wasn't a dream. Ring, ring. He grabbed the phone blindly, thumb fumbling. Hello, where the hell are you, Ethan Ryan? Caldwell's voice roared from the other end, loud enough to vibrate his skull. It's past 6:30. The investor breakfast starts at 7:30 sharp. You said you'd finalize the slides, prep the deck print, the hard copies, and somehow I'm the one waking you up. Ethan shot up so quickly that one of the twins nearly rolled off his lap. He caught her just in time, clutching her against his chest like a rugby ball. Ryan, listen, I swear I had a situation. An emergency. A situation. Ryan cut him off. We are about to lose our largest European client, and you're calling it a situation. Where the hell are you? I'm getting ready. Don't come. I've got it under control, Ethan lied, his voice cracking. Ryan hung up before he could say more. Ethan dropped the phone and started pacing, muttering frantically. Okay. Think. He glanced at the clock, 6:45 in the morning, then at the babies, then at himself, then at the wreck of his penthouse. His reflection in the hallway mirror looked like a parody of corporate disaster. He peeled off the milk-stained shirt, grabbed a cologne bottle, and sprayed himself like he was performing an exorcism. He dashed into the walk-in closet, yanked down a fresh navy suit, and changed at full speed. You little grenades, he whispered to the twins, bundling them up in soft new blankets. You've nuked my life, but you smell like lavender and betrayal. And somehow, I'm not even mad. He picked one up, then the other, balancing them on each arm like priceless relics, then paused. Who the hell was he going to leave them with George the concierge downstairs? That man once called the police on a pizza delivery guy. Trusting him with infants was out of the question. He scanned his contacts, Emily, the receptionist, too early. His exes, a war zone. The woman next door with the Pomeranians, she hated him more than her dogs did. He sighed, grabbed the keys, and muttered under his breath, "We move." It was 7:05 in the morning in Metropolis, specifically the Upper East District. The city pulsed with its usual weekday rhythm. Early commuters filled the sidewalks with coffee in hand, and delivery vans weaved through narrow streets like clockwork. Inside Ethan's sleek black SUV, he drove with the tense focus of a man transporting nuclear material. Every turn was calculated, every stop deliberate. In the back seat, the twins were nestled in what could only be described as improvised baby seats, carefully constructed from silk scarves, couch cushions, and a silent plea to the universe that nothing would go wrong. He swerved into a side street near Ridgeview and parked in front of the only place that seemed remotely viable, Happy Sprout Daycare Center. The gate was painted with cartoon giraffes and lions. Soft, classical music played from hidden speakers. It was warm, wholesome, trustworthy. Ethan barreled through the front door with the twins in both arms, tie askew, eyes bloodshot. At the reception desk, a neatly dressed woman greeted him with an effortless calm. "Good morning, sir. First-time drop-off." Ethan nodded vigorously. "Yes, twins. 5 months. I love them. They're adorable. Please take them from me." She smiled patiently. "Of course, sir. Do you have registration papers? Any formula or diapers, vaccination records, authorized pickup form?" Ethan stared blankly. "Do I look like I have any of that?" She kept smiling. "I'm sorry, sir. First-time drop-offs require completed paperwork and essential supplies. But I'm their father," he hissed, trying to maintain composure. "Then surely you understand," she said, "the importance of routine and proper documentation." Ethan leaned on the counter, eyes pleading. "If you don't take these babies, I will cry. I will collapse. I will melt into the tile." "I understand," she said, voice as warm and firm as polished oak. "But I still can't break policy." 7:20 in the morning. Sterling Holdings headquarters, Metropolis. The glass doors of Sterling Holdings swung open with a dramatic gust of cold air as Ethan Whitmore marched inside, a baby tucked under each arm like high-stakes diplomatic briefcases. His tailored suit, though still impressive, bore signs of battle wrinkled at the sleeve's collar, stained faintly with formula tie knotted in haste. The sleek modern lobby, usually a temple of calm professionalism, froze. Conversations died mid-sentence. Espresso machines whirred without witnesses. The sound of Ethan's polished shoes echoed across the marble as every employee within view stopped to stare. Behind the reception desk stood Emily, a poised, sharply dressed woman in her early 30s, with a perfect chignon and winged eyeliner that never smudged until this morning. "Good morning, sir," she said, voice faltering, gaze fixed on the infants. Whose children are those?" Ethan deposited the twins gently on the front desk, like urgent courier parcels, adjusting his tie with a weary sigh. "Emily," he said, managing to sound diplomatic and deranged at the same time. "Have I ever asked you for a personal favor?" She narrowed her eyes. "Only once. You begged me to fake a client call so you could avoid Mrs. Ethel's retirement speech." He nodded. "Well, today it's babies. 2 of them. You're a capable woman. You've seen children. You have this." And without waiting for a reply, he pivoted and disappeared down the hallway, his footsteps brisk with desperation. 7:25. Executive boardroom. Ryan Caldwell was pacing like a caged animal. The conference table gleamed. Charts were ready. Presentation deck loaded. Investors arriving in minutes. Ethan burst through the door, hair-ruffled shirt still bearing a faint milk stain, his eyes bloodshot like he hadn't slept in a week. Ryan stopped cold, sniffed, and frowned. "You smell like formula," he said, incredulous. Ethan collapsed into the nearest chair. "Remember last night when I said someone dropped babies at my front door?" Ryan's brow creased. "Yes." "Well, they stayed," Ethan muttered, gesturing vaguely in the direction of the lobby. Ryan blinked slowly. "You're joking. I wish I were. Where are they now, Emily?" Ryan's jaw practically hit the floor. "You left your children with the receptionist. What choice did I have? George is hopeless. The daycare rejected me, and I've officially run out of backup plans and clean socks." Ryan slid into the chair across from him, stunned. "Your life has become a full-blown tragicomedy. Karma in full, ultra-high definition." Ethan rubbed his temples, exhausted. "I'm not even certain I know who their mother is." Ryan's eyes narrowed. "This is what happens when your dating history is longer than your CV." Ethan looked up, defeated. "Do I deserve this?" Ryan sighed. "Do you want the short answer or the long one? The biblical version involves plagues." Silence settled between them as the projector hummed to life. Somewhere in the hallway, faint baby giggles floated through the air like ghosts of his sanity. Ethan closed his eyes. What on earth is going to happen when they start crawling 811? Sterling Holdings hummed with the energy of early ambition. The air conditioning purred, printers clicked, and phones rang politely. But tucked behind the frosted glass doors of the executive suite, Ethan Whitmore was staging a private disaster. He had calculated the route from the lobby to his office like a man escaping a heist, 12 steps, 2 automatic doors, and exactly 3 judgmental colleagues. Each one had given him the same raised eyebrow look as he tiptoed down the hallway, whispering, "Shh, no crying." Daddy's one HR incident away from being replaced by an algorithm. The babies Charlotte and Rachel stared up at him, one chewing her fist, the other blinking with suspicious intensity. He nudged the door open with his foot and slipped inside, closing it softly behind him like a fugitive. Peace lasted 3 seconds. Then Charlotte whimpered. Rachel followed with a wail so sharp it could have shattered a wine glass. Ethan held out his hands like a hostage negotiator. "No, no, no, not here, please." "You want Daddy to get fired." He placed them gently on his Italian leather couch, threw his gray blazer over the back of his swivel chair, and began humming the first tune that came to mind. A lullaby. Then Stairway to Heaven. Then something that vaguely resembled a toothpaste jingle. A knock. The door flung open. Emily, still immaculate but with a slight twitch in her left eye, stormed in. In one hand she clutched 2 baby bottles, in the other her dignity barely holding together. "Sir, please," she hissed. "I tried. I really did. But these girls are like trained saboteurs. One threw up on my laptop, the other pulled off part of my bun. I thought one was choking. She was faking." Smiled right after Ethan looked dazed. "I can't focus. I have client calls. Do I look like I know how to soothe infants?" "You're their father, sir," she snapped, placing both girls in his arms. They've downed half their formula, exploded in their diapers twice, and the younger one, Rachel, I think, stares into my soul like she knows my PIN code. Ethan blinked. Which one is the younger? Emily pointed, furious. The one with the forehead wrinkle. That one's possessed. Good luck, sir. I'm going to pray for you. And with that, she fled, hair slightly undone for the first time in years. A soft giggle echoed behind her. Rachel looked smug. Ethan stared at both girls. You're going to ruin me. A new system, a terrible one, but a system nonetheless. Ethan now sat at his mahogany desk, hunched like a crypt keeper. One baby was wedged under his left armpit like a sleepy baguette. The other, nestled in his lap, was being bottle-fed with his right hand. He typed with his nose. A spreadsheet opened. He tried to adjust the column width. Charlotte sneezed directly onto the keyboard. Ethan recoiled. Can you not? Charlotte blinked, then smiled like she'd just drafted a press release. Oh God, Ethan muttered. You're adorable, but you're demons. Tiny, fashionable demons. He grabbed a napkin and wiped the keys. Just as he sat back down, Rachel grabbed a pen and began chewing it like sugar cane. No, that's toxic. He yanked it from her hands. She shrieked. He panicked, gave her a paperclip. She bit it. He snatched it back. She bit him. Ethan stared at her in disbelief. You bite now. What else? Taxes, lawsuits. Rachel grinned. Just as he managed to send the file to Ryan Caldwell, Ethan Whitmore heard it, that unholy sound. PPR. Then dead silence. Then it came a slow, creeping stink that seeped out like a malevolent fog curling under a sealed door. His whole body froze. No, 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 no. I just changed you 30 minutes ago, he muttered, rising stiffly from the leather desk chair like a man being summoned to the gallows. He lifted Rachel away from his chest with extended arms, his expression twisted in disbelief. Oh my God, what are you eating? How does a child consume milk and produce this level of chemical warfare? His nostrils flared as the smell thickened. He blinked at the diaper bag. Empty. He had brought only 2 diapers, 1 per baby. Both were now casualties of war. He stared down at his shirt, white, clean-fitted Italian cotton monogrammed cuff, now useless. A soft sigh escaped him, the sound of a man surrendering his last shred of pride. Rest in peace to this shirt, he whispered to no one. You served with honor. With quiet resolve and mild self-loathing, he tore the shirt in 2. The sound of ripping fabric echoed in the office like the tearing of old dreams. He scavenged binder clips from the drawer and fashioned 2 makeshift cloth diapers that looked less like childcare and more like a failed art school project. He stepped back, regarded the twins now clad in minimalist chaos, and exhaled. I swear, if anyone walks in right now, I'll just hand over my resignation and disappear into the Alps. His phone buzzed on the desk. Ryan. Of course. Ethan, Ryan said, voice low but clearly annoyed. Why didn't you join the video call? I'm attending to some pressing issues, Ethan said, whispering through clenched teeth as one baby gurgled happily and the other attempted to grab a pen. Ryan sighed. Is this about the twins again? Yes, unless these investors are pitching a nanny service along with their funding, I can't focus. Well, they just asked where the hell you are. Tell them I'm saving the future. Literally. And then it happened. Rachel screamed. The Zoom app synced to voice activation came to life on the screen. There Ethan was in full HD shirtless tie, undone one baby on his shoulder, the other chewing on a calculator like a chew toy. The screen went silent. An investor's voice finally piped up. Is this part of the pitch? Ethan stood in front of the wide office window, gently rocking both girls. His face was ghost pale, his hair mussed, and his usually neat beard frizzed and patchy. Sleep, sleep, my darling CEOs. If you sleep, Daddy will buy you a house in the East End, a Volvo XC90, and lifetime subscriptions to every streaming service you can imagine. Charlotte blinked. Rachel giggled. Ethan clutched his chest dramatically. You're doing this on purpose. He glanced skyward, whispering like a man bargaining with fate. God, why? Why didn't you send me a warning dream? I would have listened. I would have married. I would have become a youth pastor, a motivational speaker, anything. Rachel coughed. Charlotte hiccuped. The office door creaked open. Ryan stepped in navy blue blazer, crisp a coffee in one hand, a look of horror blooming across his face. He froze. The office was chaos, papers scattered like battlefield debris, feeding bottles rolling on the floor. One baby asleep on the keyboard, the other bouncing slightly on Ethan's back, secured with what was clearly a scarf repurposed as a baby sling. Ethan, Ryan said quietly, You need help. Ethan turned slowly, eyes hollow. Don't judge me. You weren't here. You didn't see what I've seen. Ryan inched forward, eyes narrowing. Are they? Eating paper, chewing, Ethan said defensively. Not swallowing. I checked. Ryan blinked twice. I'm calling your mother. Don't you dare. Then I'm calling Lucy. She's on leave. Then I'm calling my ancestors. Ethan collapsed back into his chair, body sagging with exhaustion, both twins finally asleep, one nestled on his chest, the other curled up in his open briefcase like a tiny executive. The room was still. Gloriously, impossibly still. I survived, Ethan whispered. I survived one day. He glanced at the calendar taped to the wall. Only 17 more years to go. The moment Ethan stepped out of the Sterling Holdings building with the girls bundled in his arms, he felt the city's judgment fall upon him like an invisible weight. The late afternoon sun hovered behind the skyline, casting long shadows across the traffic-jam freeway. The sedan's quiet purr had finally lulled the twins into sleep. Feet lullabies, pacifiers, and whispered threats had failed to achieve. Every part of Ethan ached. His body felt like it had been folded into origami. His mind was fried, overcooked, and dry. His once flawless gray suit now wore the evidence of his battle's baby spit, glistening on the collar, a broad milk stain like a target across his chest, and a streak of mashed banana smeared like war paint down his sleeve. He couldn't tell whether he wanted to laugh, cry, or simply collapse into a coma. Mostly, he just wanted to sleep. For 48 uninterrupted hours. The black luxury sedan curved into the entrance of his gated East End estate. As the gate slid open, Ethan exhaled deeply as if this final stretch might offer him peace. But serenity shattered the moment he saw George the concierge standing at the gatehouse. George stood with his arms crossed and a glint of amusement on his face. Late 60s, with a newspaper tucked under one arm and a look that said, "I told you so." "Well, well," George said, drawling slightly. "Back early today, sir, or should I say full-time father mode engaged." Ethan rolled down the window with the stiff detachment of someone suppressing a scream. "No good afternoon." Not even a nod. George pressed on, unfazed. "The whole neighborhood heard those girls this morning." "Who? You'd think we were raising sirens here." Ethan clenched his jaw and stepped out of the car slowly, the way someone does when trying not to explode. "George," he said, voice low, "say that again and you're done." George raised his brows, stepping back with a chuckle. "Hey, now I'm not your enemy. Just calling it like it is." I said, "Shut it." Ethan snapped louder than he meant to. "Keep the gate. Keep your commentary for your memoirs." George held up his hands in mock surrender. "No offense. Just jokes." Ethan slammed the car door harder than necessary and strode back, breath ragged. The twins stirred in their car seats but didn't wake. A mercy. He carried them both into the house, Charlotte cradled against his shoulder, Rachel snuggled in the crook of his arm. The air inside was still warm, scented faintly with vanilla and worn leather. As he stepped into the foyer, a gentle melodic voice called out, "Hi there. I think we're neighbors." Ethan turned sharply at the sound of a voice, nearly losing his grip on Rachel. Standing at the arched entrance of the freshly renovated guest wing was a stunning woman in her late 20s. She had a warm caramel complexion that caught the golden edge of sunset spilling through the French windows behind her. Her braided cornrows were neat and elegant, swept back to reveal a strong brow and a poised, symmetrical face, serene, but with just enough amusement to make him nervous. She wore a loose ivory blouse tucked into a vibrant wrap skirt, patterned in blues and oranges that swayed gently with the breeze sneaking in behind her. Ethan blinked hard and tightened his hold on the babies. "Oh, hi," he said, trying to sound casual, though his heart skipped like a scratched record. He shifted the twins subtly behind his body like contraband. "Yeah, I just got back from work. Long day." The woman offered a polite, neighborly smile, friendly but observant. "I heard some crying earlier," she said. Her voice was soft but confident, lilting slightly. "Just thought I'd check in and see if everything's okay." Ethan laughed under his breath, too quickly, too awkwardly. "Oh, those sounds?" "Yeah, nothing serious," he said, nodding dismissively. "They're not mine. I mean, not like mine. I'm just watching them for a friend." She asked for a few hours of help. At that exact moment, both girls, who had been suspiciously silent, erupted into synchronized wailing. High-pitched, full-throttle, no-mercy screams that pierced the quiet like sirens. Ethan stiffened. He felt sweat bloom across his back. The woman raised one eyebrow, the corner of her mouth lifting into something between sympathy and disbelief. "They seem pretty attached to you," she said, folding her arms, her gaze fixed squarely on him. Ethan forced a grin, his jaw tightening. Yeah, well, kids love me, he replied. I've got that, nurturing energy or whatever. He bounced them clumsily, the baby carrier pressing uncomfortably into his ribs. His voice cracked slightly. It's a thing. She took a small step forward, curiosity clearly growing. What's your name, Ethan? Ethan Whitmore, he said quickly, smoothing his voice and straightening his back, as if that might restore his dignity. Right then, Rachel let out a loud burp, projecting a small arc of warm milk onto the front of his already rumpled black t-shirt. She blinked once. Ethan cleared his throat and wiped it off with his sleeve, like a man who had long given up. Just a little spill, he muttered. They're very enthusiastic. The woman laughed lightly, not unkindly. Well, Ethan Whitmore, looks like you've got your hands full. I'll let you get back to it. She turned to leave, but as she did, Charlotte reached out toward her and let out an even louder wail, hands flailing in her direction. The woman paused, slowly turning her head. Ethan cleared his throat again, this time more forcefully. They do that with new people, he said, trying to sound like he believed his own excuse. The look she shot him said plainly, sure. And I'm the Queen of England. She turned back toward her apartment, hips swaying slightly under the patterned fabric. The door clicked behind her and Ethan stood frozen, the twins still crying in his arms. He exhaled sharply through his nose. Why now, he muttered under his breath. Can I get just one smooth moment in my life? He looked down at the girls, their flushed faces damp with tears. Did you really have to humiliate Daddy like that? They answered with another screeching duet, their tiny lungs working in flawless harmony. Ethan shook his head and whispered to no one, God, are you sure I'm not on a hidden camera show back inside the scent of lavender-scented wipes and warm formula filled the air? The house, minimalist modern and once surgically clean, now looked like a daycare disguised as a bachelor pad. Glass decor had been packed away into storage bins, and throw pillows were scattered across the hardwood floors like miniature crash pads. Ethan gently laid the girls down on the oversized sectional, their tiny chests still hiccuping from leftover sobs. He peeled off his milk-stained t-shirt and changed into a soft black tee and gray joggers. Stretching out his stiff shoulders, he ran a hand through his disheveled hair and brushed powdered formula out of his short beard. Then he grabbed his keys from the hook by the front door. All right, ladies, he said, strapping Charlotte into the baby carrier and nestling Rachel into a soft blanket in the stroller. We're going shopping. And no, this isn't a negotiation. I need my sanity back. At Elite Market on Park Avenue, a high-end grocery chain with prices that could make hedge fund managers blink, Ethan was a spectacle. One baby strapped to his chest like a tiny general, the other seated in the cart's child seat, gnawing relentlessly on the barcode scanner he'd grabbed at the self-checkout. A nervous store associate, likely fresh out of college, trailed behind him with the panic of someone assigned a task far beyond their pay grade. Sir, we have actual teething toys, the associate offered tentatively. I need everything. Ethan snapped eyes wild. Powder lotion, diapers, bottles, pacifiers, bibs, socks, wipes, a mosquito net. Hell, give me the aisle. Sir, you're already at $1,500. Did I ask for a total? Ethan barked. Add more. Matching outfits, nothing flashy. Soft colors, neutral tones. They're already too cute. Last thing I need is strangers getting ideas. The cashier stared in disbelief as Ethan approached with 3 overflowing baskets and one baby chewing on the end of his silk tie. On the drive home, the car was quiet mercifully. The twins had fallen asleep, their faces peaceful in the soft hum of the cabin. Ethan's Bluetooth buzzed to life. Ryan Caldwell. Charlie, Ethan. Ryan's voice rang with laughter. It's Friday night. Where are you? We're heading to the Carbon. Ethan sighed, eyes fixed on the traffic, inching ahead. In traffic. Heading home. Dude, come out. Let Emily babysit for a night. Live a little. Ethan scoffed. Emily nearly hexed me this morning. Ryan laughed harder. You should have seen yourself. Excel open shirt off, both babies eyeing you like you were the entertainment. Ethan pulled over, rubbed his temples, and looked into the rearview mirror. The girls were asleep, cheeks pressed to the padded headrests. He smiled faintly. I'm not coming, he said. This is my life now. I have daughters. There was a long pause on the line. Wow, Ryan finally said. I know, Ethan replied. I went from baby boy to baby daddy. Ryan let out a slow laugh. Well, if you survive this weekend, you're a legend. Later that night, Ethan walked back into the house with shopping bags in both arms and the twins still sleeping. George stood near the gate quietly, whistling a gospel tune, deliberately looking away. Inside, Ethan laid the girls gently onto a new foam mattress he had set up in the guest room, tucking them in among plush toys and pastel blankets. The house felt changed, warmer, more lived in, less hollow. He sat on the edge of the couch, leaned back, and looked over at the sleeping babies. For a long moment, he just watched them, two little strangers who had upended his life in the most unpredictable way. "I don't know where you came from," he whispered. "I don't even know if you're really mine. But for now, you're mine." The moonlight pooled softly across their tiny forms. The house was still, peaceful, and for once, Ethan didn't mind the silence. Ethan Whitmore couldn't even remember falling asleep. One moment he was blinking at the dim ceiling light, his mind numb, and the next his body was draped awkwardly over the couch, still half-dressed in his office clothes. His shirt was only half-button tie discarded over the armrest, like a white flag of surrender. On the thick wool rug beside him, Charlotte and Rachel lay curled in their soft green blankets, their chests rising and falling in perfect synchrony, finally at peace. The ceiling fan above hummed in lazy circles, stirring the cool air gently. For the first time in over 24 hours, the house was still. No crying, no diaper explosions, no wailing like banshees from the underworld, just silence. A blessed golden silence. The girls had drifted off after their last feeding, milk-drunk and warm, and Ethan's sheer exhaustion, pulling at every joint, had followed suit without resistance. His arms had gone numb. His brain felt submerged in fog. But sleep had come quickly, heavily. Until it didn't. At exactly 3 o'clock in the morning, reality crashed back in. A sharp, high-pitched cry sliced through the quiet like a siren. One baby. Then, without hesitation, the second joined in, offended perhaps that her sister had beaten her to it. Stereo chaos. Ethan jolted upright, heart pounding his temples, throbbing with sleep deprivation. It took several seconds for him to orient himself, his eyes darting between the two tiny red faces, now screaming for justice. "Oh God, not again," he mumbled hoarsely, voice gravelly from sleep. He reached for the side table where he thought he'd left the bottles. Nothing. Empty. Cold. Panic simmered beneath the surface. He scanned the room. Vision blurred, the dim light making the mess around him look worse than it was. The living room had fully transformed into a crash site, diapers scattered like confetti, a trail of baby wipes leading to nowhere, the couch cushions dislodged and bearing milk stains in odd shapes. His once immaculate bachelor space, gray linen minimalist decor, Scandinavian bookshelf, was now a battlefield. Stumbling toward the kitchen, he rubbed his burning eyes. His feet stuck slightly to the floor thanks to dried formula he hadn't noticed earlier. His hands trembled as he grabbed the formula container, mixing with practiced but unsteady movements. He tested the temperature of each bottle on his wrist, like a sleepwalker fulfilling an ancient ritual. Back in the living room, the crying had reached full opera. He gathered both girls, Charlotte cradled in the crook of his elbow, Rachel perched on his chest, and whispered desperately, "Shh, please, please, don't kill me. I'm a good man. I swear. I'm trying." He fed them both with clumsy tenderness, rocking, gently humming half melodies from childhood. Slowly, gradually, the cries faded to hiccups. Then silence again. Sweet, devastating silence. Ethan sank onto the couch, arms falling limp over the sides, legs spread out, head resting against the wall. His heart thudded like he'd just finished a sprint. The wall clock ticked toward 4. He barely noticed. Sleep pulled him under like a tide. His alarm blared at 6:30, a brutal, unmerciful tone. He groaned and slapped the phone with more force than necessary. His neck ached. His eyes felt like sandpaper. He sat up slowly, blinking at the morning light, now filtering through the blinds in soft slants. Miraculously, the twins were still asleep, both swaddled like burritos in their blankets, their tiny hands peeking out. He moved quickly, seizing the moment. A splash of cold water in the bathroom, sink of fresh white shirt, neatly pressed gray suit pants blazer slung over the chair. He left the top 2 buttons undone and took one final look at himself in the mirror. Tired eyes, 5 o'clock shadow threatening to become permanent, but still standing. He wrapped the girls carefully in fresh blankets, packed their tiny bag with supplies, and carried them toward the door with quiet efficiency, whispering, "Okay, let's try again. Maybe today won't kill me." Outside, the estate grounds were covered in dew and the air was still. At the gate, George was already sweeping the walkway, humming an old folk tune as his broom scratched rhythmically across the stone path. He looked up, eyebrows rising, as he spotted Ethan approaching with both babies tucked under each arm like cargo. Well, well, George said, not missing a beat. Back at it again, I see. They really don't want to let you out of their sight. Huh, Ethan didn't slow down. George, please. If I start with you this morning, I might not stop. Just greet me like a decent person. George lifted his broom like a wizard raising his staff. What can I say? What you sow, you reap. Ethan rolled his eyes, voice flat. I swear I don't have the energy today. He loaded the twins into their car seats, climbed in, and drove off toward the city. By 7:50, he pulled into the Sterling Holdings underground lot. Timing was everything. As two delivery men hauled in a crate of water dispensers, Ethan slipped quietly behind them, through the service entrance baby carrier in hand, hoping to pass unnoticed. The lobby was mostly empty sunlight bouncing gently off the marble floor. But Emily was already at the front desk. Her crisp white dress hugged her frame elegantly. Her dark hair was swept up in a bun, glasses perched precisely on the bridge of her nose. She looked up and immediately frowned. Sir, she said, arms folding. No. Ethan put on his best innocent face. Emily, please, I'm not doing it. I told you yesterday. I am not your nanny. I know, he said, already power walking toward the elevators. Just cover for me while I get to my office. Don't even think about leaving those babies here, Mr. Whitmore. I have back-to-back meetings and emails piling up. You'll remember this when your promotion comes up. He muttered under his breath. You said that yesterday. She snapped as he disappeared down the hall, trying to balance the baby carrier without looking like a man on the verge. Then he heard it, that dreaded voice. Mr. Whitmore. He froze. His spine stiffened. Mr. Thompson, Ethan said, turning slowly like a child caught sneaking candy. He stood straighter, shifting the carrier behind his leg. Good morning, sir. Mr. Thompson, ever the picture of corporate formality in his tailored pinstripe suit, stared at the scene with eyebrows raised in silent horror. Where do you think you're going with children in your arms? It's just, they're really quiet today, sir. Practically invisible. This is a corporate building, Mr. Whitmore, not a nursery. Do you understand the liability risks of bringing infants into the workplace? I do, sir. I completely understand. It's just, I haven't found anyone yet. I didn't sleep last night. I just need a little more time. Please. Mr. Thompson exhaled slowly through his nose. I need you in my office, immediately. Ethan hesitated. Sir, the kids do not bring those children into my office, but I don't have a choice, sir. I said leave them at the front desk. Emily's voice cut through from behind. I already said I'm not keeping those babies. Sir, Mr. Thompson turned slightly, met Emily's steely gaze. The look that passed between them was brief but volcanic. Ethan gave a helpless smile, motioning toward the babies. Like I said, I don't have a choice. A long pause. Mr. Thompson's jaw flexed. Then he relented, voice like steel. Fine, bring them. But if one of them cries, just one, they're out. Ethan nodded quickly, not daring to breathe too deeply. He adjusted the carrier and followed Mr. Thompson down the corridor, whispering under his breath to the girls, please, just for once, don't ruin my life. Ethan Whitmore nodded rapidly, his jaw tight with anxiety, and followed Mr. Thompson into the office. He nudged the heavy glass door open with his elbow, both arms cradling the baby carrier like a sacred relic. Every movement was calculated, steady, quiet, protective. The door clicked shut behind him with a finality that made his heart race. Mr. Thompson, a man of deliberate grace and an iron gaze, eased into his chair behind a monolithic mahogany desk. The office, like the man, was spare but intimidating. Floor-to-ceiling windows, two abstract paintings, not a single thing out of place. Sit, he said, gesturing to one of the leather chairs in front of him. Ethan obeyed at once, gently placing the baby carrier in the neighboring chair before lowering himself into his own seat. He didn't lean back. His spine was rigid. The twins, Charlotte and Rachel, remained mercifully asleep, bundled in their pastel green swaddles, their tiny mouths parted in untroubled dreams. Mr. Thompson folded his hands, elbows resting on the desk. Explain yourself. Ethan cleared his throat, voice low and raw. Sir, I haven't told anyone this, but they're mine. The girls, they're my kids. Thompson's brow lifted, but he said nothing. They were left at my doorstep 4 days ago. No warning, no phone call, just a note that said they belonged to me. I had no idea I even had children. No context, no name, just this enormous truth dropped in my lap like a live grenade. Ethan paused, his throat tightening. Since then, I've been trying to handle everything alone. I swear I'm not trying to make this the company's problem, but I didn't know where else to go. He didn't say everything. He didn't mention the part about their mother being gone, vanished without explanation, or the part where the note was scrawled in anger. What he said was enough. "They're mine," Ethan continued, voice firming, "and I want to take care of them. But I also need this job." Mr. Thompson leaned back in his chair, the leather creaking softly beneath his weight. He studied Ethan for a long moment, then cast a glance at the sleeping infants. "You understand what you're saying, right? That if one board member sees you walking up those stairs with babies, it's not just your job on the line. This whole company could come under scrutiny." "I know," Ethan said, nodding solemnly. "And no, I don't want to keep bringing them here. I'm meeting someone tonight, a woman from church. Her cousin used to be a nanny. If she agrees, I won't have to bring them in again." Mr. Thompson sighed a deep, tired breath and looked back at the babies. One of them stirred, stretching in her sleep, then settled. "You're lucky they're cute," he muttered half to himself. A flicker of relief passed over Ethan's face. "Thank you, sir." "I'm not doing this for you," Mr. Whitmore Thompson said firmly. "I'm doing this for those girls. Don't make me regret it." "Understood," Ethan replied quickly, nodding with a mixture of gratitude and exhaustion. "Now get out of my office, quietly." Ethan rose, cradled the carrier again, bowed his head like a man walking out of a courtroom acquitted by grace, and stepped out. As the door shut behind him, he released the breath he'd been holding. Back in his own office, he locked the door, leaned against it, and closed his eyes. His heart still hammered against his ribs. He looked down. Charlotte was awake, blinking up at him with the calmness of a child who hadn't just nearly ruined his career. "I can't believe this is my life now," he whispered, but there was no anger in his tone, just disbelief tinged with the slightest trace of surrender, maybe even acceptance. Maybe. Evening sunlight poured into Ethan's apartment in warm, golden bands that painted the white walls and glinted off the hardwood floors. The quiet was surreal. Charlotte and Rachel lay curled together on a clean baby mat, both dressed in soft white onesies, their tiny arms flung outward in mirrored poses. Ethan slouched on the couch, head tipped back, a can of energy drink resting on his stomach, now half warm and losing fizz. His eyes were distant, watching dust dance in the last rays of sun as if it were a movie he barely followed. His phone buzzed. "Ryan," he answered, voice flat. Brother Ryan's voice exploded through the speaker. "What's going on? Are we linking up or what? Tonight's the night Emperor's Lounge, same place, same corner." "Come on, man." Ethan rubbed his temple with 2 fingers. "Ryan, I can't. I've got the girls tonight." A loud groan followed. "Ethan, you and these kids, I'm serious. You sound like a divorced accountant. We used to run the whole city, remember? Now you talk like a babysitter. They're babies, Ryan. I can't just leave them alone. They don't come with pause buttons. It's diapers, crying, feeding, repeat. Hire someone. Leave them with your neighbor. Bring them with you to the club. I don't care. You need oxygen, man. These babies are aging you by the hour." Ethan let out a tired laugh but didn't answer. "Just 1 hour," Ryan pleaded. "Come out. Breathe. I promise the world won't end." The call ended and Ethan sat in silence, staring out the window. The room felt sterile, too clean, too controlled. The world outside was pulsing with life, music, lights, energy. In here the silence was so dense it felt padded. He looked down at the twins. One let out a tiny snore. The other flinched in her sleep, then relaxed again. He stood slowly. "Maybe just 1 hour won't kill me." By 9 o'clock, he was dressed in a sleek black shirt with rolled sleeves, slim-fit navy jeans, and spotless white sneakers. He'd trimmed his beard, combed his hair, and spritzed cologne for the first time in a week. Charlotte and Rachel were snug in soft pink jackets over their onesies, tiny white socks on their feet, matching pacifiers clipped to their clothes like mini accessories. He packed everything: diapers, formula bottles, pacifier wipes, even a foldable changing mat, all neatly arranged in a tan leather baby bag slung over his shoulder. Strapping them gently into the back seat of his car, he double-checked every buckle, kissed each forehead, and pulled out into the metropolis night. The city buzzed. Street vendors lined the sidewalks selling hot dogs and pretzels. Neon signs flickered in the windows of late-night cafes. Pedestrians moved in clusters, laughter and conversations bleeding into the air. When he pulled up in front of Emperor's Lounge, the valet recognized him immediately. So did the 2 bouncers at the velvet rope. Boss Whitmore been a while, one called, flashing a grin that gleamed with a gold tooth. Ethan grinned back and stepped out of the car. But when he opened the back door and hoisted out the carrier, their faces changed. Boss," the taller bouncer said slowly, "are those babies?" They won't be drinking just orange juice, Ethan quipped, smirking. The first bouncer scratched his head. But sir, this isn't a family brunch spot. It's a club. The speakers alone could crack their skulls. I'm not going into the main floor, Ethan said. Just the private lounge upstairs. Soundproofed. Jazz playlist. Trust me, it's practically a cafe. The bouncers exchanged looks. One finally shrugged. Fine. Upstairs only. No coming down to the main floor. No problem, Ethan said. I won't even touch the bar. As he walked toward the entrance, babies in tow, Ethan couldn't help but feel the irony of the moment. Just a week ago, this had been his playground. Now it was just a pit stop between bottle feedings. Ethan gave the bouncers a grateful nod, almost a salute, and carefully maneuvered the double baby carrier through the side entrance of Emperor's Lounge. The hallway was quieter here, lined with dark wood paneling and framed photos of jazz legends. As he made his way up the stairs, he could feel the weight of the evening pressing on his back, not just the physical burden of carrying Charlotte and Rachel, but the surrealness of the whole situation. He stepped into the VIP lounge and let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. The space was dimly lit, atmospheric, almost cinematic. Soft jazz floated from the ceiling speakers, Coltrane, maybe Miles, and the low hum of conversation blended gently into the ambiance. Warm amber lighting bounced off the shelves of top-shelf liquor, and the leather sofas looked more like reading chairs than club furniture. A waiter dressed in an all-black uniform with the attentiveness of someone trained at a five-star resort approached without delay. Ethan nodded toward the nearest couch, setting the carrier down carefully beside him. The girls stirred but remained asleep. He adjusted their pacifiers and ordered 2 fresh juices pineapple for himself, orange for whoever showed up first. 20 minutes passed in a strange but peaceful stillness. Then came the familiar sound of boots and bravado. Ryan Caldwell, fashionably late, dressed in a crisp white linen shirt, open at the collar, paired with stone-washed jeans, and that unmistakable grin that had gotten them both out of and into too many situations. He pushed through the curtain and froze. There they were, Charlotte and Rachel, now wide-eyed and alert, sitting up with a quiet, judgmental calm that only babies can truly master, pacifiers in their mouths, eyes locked on him like silent interrogators. Ryan's jaw dropped. "You actually brought them," he whispered, blinking in disbelief. Ethan raised his glass and took a slow sip. "You said I needed air, so here I am." Ryan stepped forward like he'd just seen a ghost. Then suddenly his shoulders shook with laughter, loud, unfiltered, the kind that reverberated through his chest. One of the twins flinched, her bottom lip trembling, before she let out a high, startled wail. "Shh," Ethan hissed, scooping her up and rocking her instinctively. "Come on, man, keep it down." Ryan tried barely. He clutched his stomach as he wheezed. This is the most legendary nonsense I've ever seen. Ethan Whitmore, former king of the Carbon, now father of twins. I mean, look at you. There's even drool on your sleeve. Another voice chimed in behind him. Steve, another old friend from their fast living days, holding a glass of scotch and looking utterly lost. He took one glance at the carrier, blinked, then turned slowly to Ethan. "Is this some kind of social experiment? Are we being filmed?" Ethan exhaled, still gently bouncing the crying twin. "They're mine. Don't ask too many questions. Just be helpful and hand me that bottle, will you?" Steve complied, still stunned. Ryan, finally calming down, sat beside him and reached over to make silly faces at the second twin, who gurgled in response, amused. He tried out some baby talk with exaggerated vowels and cartoonish expressions. "Look at her! She's laughing at me. She's literally judging my entire life." Ryan muttered, half impressed. The chaos that followed wasn't the kind Ethan used to thrive in. No flashing lights, no velvet ropes, no whispered promises in dark corners. But it was alive. The lounge filled with laughter, clinking glasses, poorly executed lullabies, and baby coos. There were bottles of juice and beer, baby wipes and cocktail napkins. Charlotte eventually drifted to sleep in the crook of Ethan's arm, and Rachel lay against his chest, thumb tucked under her chin. It was noisy, uncoordinated, and mildly absurd, but warm, comforting. For the first time in what felt like days, Ethan didn't feel like he was failing. He felt anchored. He looked down at his daughters, one asleep, the other tugging gently at the hem of his shirt, and something in his chest shifted, something deep, something irreversible. He never imagined this would be his life, not in 1,000 lifetimes. But in that moment, surrounded by friends, drinks, and 2 baby girls, he realized he didn't hate it. He smiled. He was beginning to love them, and there was no turning back now. It was just past midnight when Ethan unlocked the door to his apartment, juggling the twins in one arm, their leather baby bag in the other. He stepped inside and closed the door with his foot, the soft click echoing through the vast modern space. The silence that greeted him was heavy, not peaceful, accusatory. He lowered the girls into their cushioned twin carrier and took a seat on the edge of the couch, elbows on knees, hands pressed against his forehead. The ceiling fans turned in slow, indifferent spirals. The apartment, once his fortress of freedom, now felt like an echo chamber. This was the same man who used to be the toast of every private event in Metropolis, who rotated dinner reservations like playlists and treated women like casual hobbies. That man was now pacing his hardwood floors at night, clutching burp cloths and wondering, who in God's name did I get pregnant? The question hit like ice. Earlier at the lounge, the jokes had come fast, good-natured, exaggerated, deflective. But now, in the stillness, reality clawed back. 2 5-month-old babies didn't just materialize. Someone carried them. Someone believed with enough certainty that they were his. He moved to the built-in bar in the corner of the room, poured himself a short glass of scotch, but after one long look, he put it down. His reflection in the glass door stared back unshaven, tired, but awake in a new way. "What if I have more out there?" he whispered. He reached for his phone. His contact list was a graveyard of impulsive decisions. He scrolled. Naomi, a brief fiery affair. He called. "Hello," came the voice. "Naomi, it's Ethan." A pause. "Ethan, after 8 months, you call me for what I needed to ask. Did you ever get pregnant? Are you okay? Were you mad? Please, Naomi. Did you ever?" A sharp sigh cut him off. "I did, but you told me to abort. You said you weren't ready. So I did. Don't pretend you didn't know. Naomi, don't call me again." Click. He stared at the screen. Next, Amanda. "A wild weekend in the mountains." Another long shot. "Hello, Amanda, it's Ethan. Quick question, were you ever pregnant?" Her laugh was like glass shattering. "Now you care, no, Ethan. I handled it before you had the chance to disappear." He called Ella, Tina, Phyllis. Every answer was similar. Disappointment, anger, a long memory of a man who never stayed. "Twins for me." "You're joking. No way. I'm not even sure I didn't want to be another name on your call list, Ethan. That's why I never told you." He ended the final call and sat in the quiet. The babies were asleep again. Rachel's lips moving as if in dream. Charlotte letting out a tiny snore. He smiled faintly. Then the weight returned. Where did you two come from? He opened his photo app, scrolling backward through months of filtered perfection. Parties, flights, rooftop lounges. Nothing connected. Every moment blurred into the next. And then it struck him. A name. Claire Bennett. Not one of the usuals. Not someone from the scene. She'd worked in his building in housekeeping. Always polite, dignified, quiet. He had barely spoken to her. Then one night, one stupid drunken night, he crossed a line. She resigned a week later. No word, no scene. She just vanished. He sat upright, adrenaline shooting through him. It couldn't be. Could it? She'd never reached out, never demanded anything. No threats, no lawyers. But what if she had? And he simply hadn't listened. His breath quickened. He walked to the carrier and knelt beside it. Rachel blinked up at him, then yawned softly, arms stretching outward. "Claire," he whispered, "is that why you left?" The thought pulsed through him now, too loud to ignore. It made too much sense. And yet, he had no proof, no answers, no contact. Just Charlotte. And Rachel. And a truth he was finally willing to face. Ethan stood still for a long time, one hand resting on the window frame, the other hanging limply by his side, his gaze fixed on the shadowed skyline of Metropolis. From up here, the city still glittered like a postcard, glass towers gleaming under artificial stars, traffic flowing like electric veins. But the view no longer carried the same high. It didn't make him feel untouchable anymore. The same city that had once made him feel like a god now tethered him to 2 tiny lives that relied on him for everything. 2 daughters. And a woman, Claire Bennett, who had possibly vanished, taking the truth with her. The bars, the rooftop parties, the imported suits, the midnight flings, they all felt like echoes from someone else's life. All he wanted now was clarity, a name, a reason, a path forward, maybe even a shot at doing something right for once. As dawn crept over Metropolis, the sky shifted from a bruised navy to a hazy rose gold. Warm light spilled slowly across the room, catching the edge of the crib beside his bed. Ethan sat on the edge of the mattress, shoulders slumped, eyes hollow with fatigue, but somewhere beneath the exhaustion was the faint outline of resolve. He looked at the babies still fast asleep in their swaddles, soft breaths rising and falling like lullabies. "It's time to find out the truth," he murmured. The thought had haunted him all night, running circles in his mind like a song stuck on repeat. So before the day even officially began, Ethan dressed the girls in clean onesies, bundled them in fresh blankets, and strapped them gently into the back seat of his charcoal gray Mercedes SUV. His movements were slow, but careful practice now. In that way new parents learned through necessity. He drove through the early city haze to the private DNA testing center in the business district. He didn't hesitate. He paid for the expedited results, held his daughters quietly in his lap while the lab techs swabbed their cheeks, and sat through the wait with one leg bouncing and his jaw tight. 48 hours later, the results landed on his desk in a sealed envelope. Ethan Whitmore, 99.99% match. He stared at the paper in stunned silence, its white edges trembling between his fingers. "They're mine," he said aloud, the words raw, his voice cracking in the quiet. A truth so simple, yet earth-shattering. No more speculation, no more doubt. He wasn't just playing at being a father. He was one. That afternoon, with the printed test results neatly folded inside a folder, Ethan pulled into the gravel lot of the Happy Sprout Daycare Center just outside the East End. It was a warm, cozy building with white shutters and flower beds lining the entrance. The sign out front was hand-painted with a small sunflower under the name. He stepped inside, the twins resting in their carrier, still drowsy from the car ride. The air smelled faintly of lavender and Play-Doh. Children's voices echoed from behind closed doors, punctuated by soft laughter and the sound of gentle music. A woman in her early 50s approached him, Mrs. Aqua. She wore a soft blue blouse and thick framed glasses, her silver-streaked hair pulled into a loose bun. There was kindness in her eyes, but also a discerning intelligence. Ethan explained everything carefully, honestly, though he kept it brief. He handed her the DNA results and tried to maintain his composure. "These girls are mine," he said quietly. "I need somewhere safe for them while I work. I'll pick them up every evening. I need help." Mrs. Aqua studied the documents, then glanced down at the babies who were now sleeping peacefully again. After a moment of silence, she looked up at Ethan. "You look tired, Mr. Whitmore," she said gently, "and scared. But you're here. That counts for more than most." She smiled, warm and matter-of-fact. "Leave them. We'll take good care of them." Ethan exhaled something heavy, slipping off his shoulders. "Thank you," he breathed. "Thank you so much." He knelt beside the carrier and kissed each of the girls on their foreheads, whispering something only they could hear. Neither stirred. For the first time in days, he didn't feel like he was drowning. The air inside that quiet daycare felt like hope. Later that day, back at the Sterling Holdings office, Ethan sat behind his desk, sorting through documents, the soft thrum of the city outside filtering through the glass. Ryan Caldwell leaned casually against the edge of the desk, spinning a pen between his fingers like a magician waiting for applause. "So, daycare now." "Huh?" Ryan asked, his tone light but curious. Ethan adjusted his tie with one hand, flipping through contracts with the other. "Yep, dropped them off this morning. Pick them up by 6. The place is run by a woman named Mrs. Aqua. Kind, sharp, no nonsense." Ryan let out a low whistle. "You daycare pickups. This is not the Ethan I met in Ibiza." Ethan chuckled under his breath. "Let's just say I know more about bottle warmers and nipple flow rates than I do about mergers and acquisitions right now." Ryan barked a laugh and slapped the desk. "Mr. Bachelor turned Mr. Bibbs and burp cloths. Unbelievable." But Ethan's smile faded slightly, replaced by something quieter. "I'm still trying to find her." Ryan paused. "Her Claire, the woman who used to work for me. I've called everyone I know. No number, no address. She disappeared. You really think she's the mother? She's the only one it could be. Everyone else told me. They didn't go through with it." Ryan crossed his arms and leaned back in the chair. "So what now? I keep searching. I owe it to them, to her. Even if she left without a word, she left them with me for a reason." Ryan studied him for a long beat. That reason might be love, or desperation, or both. Either way, you're stepping up. Ethan looked out the window, the metropolis skyline reflecting in the pane. It used to dazzle him. Now it grounded him. His gaze lingered on the distant rooftops, the golden glow of late afternoon settling over the city. He thought of the baby bottle in his desk drawer, the diapers folded neatly in his briefcase, the tiny yawn Charlotte gave him that morning before he left. Something had changed inside him. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about meaning. He stood and stretched. "I'm heading out early, picking them up before rush hour hits." Ryan grinned. Soft life. Papa mode activated. Ethan rolled his eyes, but the corner of his mouth twitched into a smirk. Something like that. But beneath the half-joke, his thoughts churned. Who was Claire, really? Was she safe? Had she left out of fear, pride, grief? Why had she gone silent after giving him so much? These weren't just idle questions anymore. They were knots he needed to untangle if he was ever going to move forward. As he stepped out into the cooling evening air, the city buzzed around him with its usual indifference, horns, footsteps, laughter spilling from restaurants. But Ethan's heart thumped with a new tempo, a searching rhythm. He approached his car in the lot, remote in hand. The engine blinked awake. He slid into the driver's seat, checked his mirrors. Then he saw it. In the rear view, a face. Just for a second. Passing along the sidewalk, partially obscured by the flow of pedestrians. His breath hitched. It couldn't be. He blinked, leaned forward, craned his neck. But she was gone. Evening had begun to settle fully over Metropolis, the sky streaked in hues of lavender and blue. The air had cooled, brushed with a gentle breeze that stirred the oak trees lining Ethan's street. His headlights cut softly through the growing mist as he drove slowly toward the security gate of his estate. He reached for the remote, and then he saw her, just off to the side, near the trees, motionless. Claire. A woman stood still beneath the towering elm tree just outside the wrought iron gate of the compound. Her silhouette was partially obscured by the faint mist curling around the sidewalk, but her posture was unmistakably poised. Shoulders relaxed, arms at her sides, eyes steady and unblinking. She wore a flowing maroon scarf draped loosely over a cream-colored dress that danced gently in the breeze. Even from behind the windshield, even through the veil of disbelief fogging his vision, Ethan knew. His hands trembled as he reached for the door handle, stepping halfway out of the car, one foot planted in the gravel drive. "Claire," he called out, his voice caught between hope and dread. But in the time it took him to blink, she was gone, vanished into the dusk like a trick of the light. He moved quickly, scanning behind the trees along the hedge line around the corner of the garden wall. Nothing. Only the rustle of leaves and the still hush of twilight, just shadows and the distant hum of the city. "Mr. Whitmore George, the concierge, called out from the front portico, his broom paused mid-sweep. "Everything all right?" Ethan raised a hand, brushing the question aside. "I thought I saw someone." He slipped back into the car, hands cold against the steering wheel. The twins were asleep in their car seats, their breaths light, and even blissfully unaware of the ghost their father had just chased and failed to catch. The next evening, the vision returned. Ethan was driving back from daycare, Charlotte and Rachel dozing in the back, the sky painted in warm purples and soft blues. As he turned the corner onto his street, he saw her again standing across the road beneath a flickering street lamp. Same scarf, same silhouette. Still, this time he didn't hesitate. He slammed on the brakes so hard the tires squealed. The girls stirred but didn't wake. Ethan bolted from the car. "Claire," he called. "Claire, is that you?" But she was already moving quickly and silently, her form slipping between the buildings and disappearing into the dusk. The only answer was the wind whispering through the leaves, and the quiet chatter of schoolchildren passing by, unaware of the man left frozen on the pavement, his breath shallow, chasing the outline of someone he wasn't sure was even real. "Am I losing my mind?" he murmured, his voice barely audible over the breeze. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He lay on the couch in a wrinkled gray t-shirt and joggers, his legs stretched out, hands behind his head, staring at the ceiling fan spinning in slow, lazy circles. The twins were finally out, curled together in a playpen near the window, soft music playing in the background. He'd given up trying to rest hours ago. He thought of the woman at the lounge, the one with the long braids and quiet gaze. Had that been her? Had she been circling him for days now, silently watching from the margins? The questions gnawed at him like static in his chest. The next evening, just after sundown, Ethan pulled into the compound again. The air was cool, and the golden streetlights cast long shadows across the stone path. But this time, there was no doubt, no mirage. She was there, not hidden behind trees, not hovering like a specter, but standing openly at the gate, solid, still, real. George stood near the entrance, his brow furrowed as he glanced between Ethan and the woman. "Open the gate," Ethan said, voice low and measured. Sir George hesitated. Are you sure Ethan didn't take his eyes off her? Open it. The metal gate rolled back slowly with a mechanical hum. Claire stepped forward with deliberate grace. Her dreadlocks were pulled back neatly, her cream dress replaced by dark jeans and a tailored black blouse, simple but sharp. Her face, elegant, composed, haunted, was unmistakable. Ethan stepped out of the car, his breath tight in his throat. He didn't know whether to run to her collapse or scream. You again, he said softly, barely above a whisper. She didn't reply at first. Her eyes moved past him, straight to the back seat, to the girls. And then something shifted. Charlotte stirred first, her mouth stretching into a small, curious smile. Then Rachel giggled bright, bubbling, pure joy. They both reached out instinctively, tiny fingers twitching in the air. Claire moved toward them slowly, like in a dream. She leaned down into the back seat, resting one palm against each of their chubby, dark brown cheeks. The girls beamed. Not the way babies smile at strangers, but the way they smile at something ancient and familiar. George stepped back, mouth agape. Sir, this isn't normal. Ethan didn't need proof. No test could explain this moment. No paperwork, no science. It was real. The kind of recognition that lived in the soul, not the mind. His voice cracked. Claire, is it really you? She looked up at him, their eyes locking. One tear slipped silently down her cheek. The low hum of the fan buzzed faintly over the soft chirp of crickets outside. Inside Ethan's living room, the lights were low, casting soft shadows on the pale walls. The twins had finally fallen asleep again, tucked into the playpen with their stuffed giraffes. The room smelled faintly of baby powder and lavender wipes. Ethan sat on the edge of the leather couch, hunched forward, elbows on his knees, fingers laced together. He looked like a man who had just run a marathon barefoot. Across from him, Claire stood with her arms crossed, her presence both familiar and utterly transformed. She wasn't the quiet, obedient housekeeper he once knew. She looked composed, steady. Her voice, when it came, was low but sharp with contained fire. Do you remember what you said to me? Ethan blinked, caught off guard. I know. Not exactly. Claire scoffed, folding her arms tighter across her chest. Of course you don't. To you, I was just the help. Disposable. Background. He looked down at his hands. The words stung. I was foolish to think that night meant anything. She said, her voice softer now, but no less piercing. But for a moment I thought maybe someone saw me. Not the uniform, not the role. Just a woman. Ethan lifted his eyes. His throat worked, but no words came. But by morning, she continued, you acted like it never happened. You couldn't even look me in the eye. You gave me orders like always, like nothing had changed. Fragments of memory slammed back into him, the hallway. His tone, his cowardice. You told me, she said, stepping closer to wipe that idea from my head, that you were the boss, I was a maid, and the two of us would never mix. Claire, no, please don't Claire me. Her voice cracked, trembling now. You broke me that day. I quit because I couldn't bear the humiliation. Then 2 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. I had no job, no income. But I kept them. Both of them. He swallowed hard. Why didn't you come to me? Claire gave a hollow laugh. Because you made it clear I meant nothing. You think I wanted to beg, that I had the strength to walk back into your world and ask for help after what you said. Her voice softened, trembling. My parents are in Birmingham, retired. I didn't want to drag them into it. I worked in a diner at first, cleaned houses, washed laundry. I opened a juice bar near the community center last year. It's small but mine. Everything I have, I built for them. Her hand brushed her cheek. She didn't wipe the tears away, they were earned. I was strong because I had to be. Ethan's knees buckled, and he sank back onto the couch, the weight of his own shame pressing him down like a lid blanket. His hands trembled slightly as he gripped the edge of the cushion, his breathing shallow. There was no defense left in him, just a raw, open silence where pride used to live. Claire stood across from him, a single tear tracking down her cheek before she brushed it away with the back of her hand. Her voice, though calm, carried the force of everything she had held in. When they turned 5 months, she began, eyes locked on him. I thought maybe you needed to learn something. I didn't want your money. I didn't come to destroy your life. I wanted you to feel something. Feel what I'd been living. The weight, the chaos, the love, the nights that never ended. She paused, scanning his face for something, remorse, maybe recognition. And you did. Ethan finally lifted his head. His eyes were red-rimmed with the exhaustion of months and a guilt that was only now becoming real. I did, he said quietly. I swear I did. His voice cracked and he stood slowly walking to the corner of the room where a small rattle had rolled beside the playpen. He picked it up gently, almost reverently, like it might crumble in his hand. I didn't plan any of this. The night they showed up, I thought it was a prank. A cruel joke. But then I saw the note. Saw their eyes. Claire, they look like me. And everything else in my life just stopped. He turned back toward her, voice trembling. Every time they cried, every diaper change, every bottle I warmed, every little smile. I changed. I didn't even know it was happening. But it happened. I love them, Claire. And in loving them, I saw who I had been, what I'd done to you. Claire's jaw was clenched, but the fire in her eyes dimmed slightly. Her arms remained crossed, but her shoulders weren't as tense. I'm not proud of anything I did, Ethan went on. I failed you. I failed them. But please don't take them away from me. I'm begging you. Claire stepped back a few inches, steadying herself. Her voice was firm now, each word placed like a stone in front of her. I didn't come here to reconcile. I came for my daughters, to take them home. Ethan nodded quickly, almost instinctively. You have every right, every single right. But let me be part of their lives. I'll support you. We can co-parent. I won't disrespect you again. I swear it. She shook her head slowly, expression unreadable. This isn't about what you want, Ethan. It's about what's best for them. And I've been raising them alone from the moment they were born. I can continue doing that. She stepped forward and gently picked up Rachel, who stirred slightly, but didn't wake. Claire kissed her cheek softly, and the baby reached out, touching a lock of her mother's hair with innocent trust. Ethan's heart squeezed. Please, he whispered, barely audible. She picked up Charlotte next, holding both girls securely in her arms. Her back was straight, her face unreadable, but her voice softened just enough to pierce him. I'm not shutting you out. I would never keep them from their father. But they're with me. They're mine. You'll see them, but on my terms. And, Ethan... He looked up at her like a drowning man clinging to air. Don't expect forgiveness. Not yet. He nodded, numb. The breath he tried to take caught in his throat. Claire moved toward the door. Ethan followed silently, not sure what to do with his hands, his voice, or the moment. When she opened it, George was standing at the gate, eyes wide, mouth slightly parted. Sir, he asked carefully, is she leaving with them? Ethan didn't respond. Claire stepped through the threshold and into the fading evening light, her scarf catching the breeze as the twins babbled softly in her arms. Their tiny sounds grew quieter as she moved down the path past the hedges and out of sight. The door clicked shut behind her. Ethan stood there a moment frozen. Then he leaned back against the doorframe, closed his eyes, and let out a sharp breath as though trying to exorcise the pain from his chest. His phone rang. It was Ryan. Hey man, I didn't hear from you. Everything good? Ethan didn't move at first. Then slowly, he lifted the phone to his ear. They're gone, he said. Gone who, Claire? The girls? She came. She took them. She said she's raising them alone. There was a beat of silence on the line. Ethan, I'm sorry. I don't even know what to say. Ethan exhaled, long and quiet. She was right. I didn't deserve them. But it doesn't make it hurt any less. I love them, Ryan. I didn't know I could love anything that much. Ryan's voice softened. Then fight for them. Not by force, not by ego. Do it the right way. When the time's right. Ethan ended the call and sank down onto the rug beside the playpen. He reached for one of the soft toys, a worn-out giraffe, and held it tightly, his head bowed. The tears came slowly at first, then all at once. His body shook silently. The house was too quiet now. The type of quiet that wasn't peace, it was absence. He glanced at the empty bottles on the coffee table, the folded blanket on the couch, the untouched toys still scattered on the mat. He picked up a small booty and pressed it to his face. The nursery still smelled faintly of baby lotion. Ethan stepped inside, running his fingers along the white railing of the crib. It was spotless. Still, as though they'd never been there. But he could still hear them laughing, babbling the soft thud of their feet on the floor. He turned quickly. No one. Charlotte, Rachel, he called out, heart lurching. The sound again, just a whisper. Giggles, small feet. Stop it, he shouted suddenly, his hands clutching his hair. His own mind was mocking him now. His grief had become a hallucination. He collapsed onto the living room couch, burying his face in his palms. They were gone, and it was his fault. The next morning, Ethan stood in front of his wardrobe, staring blankly at his neatly hung shirts and trousers. He wasn't going to work. He couldn't pretend today. He picked up his phone and scrolled to the number Claire had left him. His hand shook slightly as he pressed dial. She picked up after 3 rings. "Hello, it's me." "Ethan." A pause. No sound but the quiet hiss of breath on the line. "Please," he said, his voice cracking. "I know I've said I'm sorry, and I'll stop bothering you if that's what you want, but I need to see them. Just for a little while. Just to know they're okay." She was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was low even. "I've thought about this too. I won't keep them from you, but I also won't risk them getting hurt again. So here's what we'll do every Sunday, 2 o'clock to evening. No overnight, no exceptions." Ethan blinked. He couldn't quite believe what he'd just heard. Yes, of course. "Thank you. Claire, thank you. See that you mean it," she said and hung up. Sunday arrived like spring after a brutal winter. Ethan stood nervously at the gate of Claire's small but beautiful apartment located above a modest smoothie bar, bustling with families and college students. A chalkboard sign out front read, "Fresh pressed. No sugar, no guilt." Then the door opened. Claire stepped out holding the twins, both dressed in matching yellow dresses and white Mary Janes. Their curls were neatly styled, and their eyes lit up the second they saw him. Rachel squealed, reaching out. Charlotte flailed her arms. Ethan crouched instinctively, arms open wide. They tumbled into him. He held them close, one in each arm, his eyes stinging with tears he couldn't hide. "Thank you for this," he said softly, looking up at Claire. She nodded once, one step at a time. Ethan took them to a quiet park near the marina. He'd packed a picnic basket, juice boxes, goldfish crackers, a soft blanket, a plush elephant, and extra diapers. He pushed them on the swings, watched them toddle through the grass. He laughed harder than he had in years. When the sun began to dip below the horizon, both girls fell asleep, in his arms, heads tucked against his chest. He kissed the tops of their heads. "I'll never let you down again," he whispered. That night, Ethan sat on the edge of his bed. The room was silent, but no longer suffocating. It wasn't loneliness he felt, it was purpose. He picked up his phone and typed slowly, "To Ryan, brother, I've changed. For real. No more games, no more lies, no more running through women like they're disposable. Those girls gave me a second chance. I'm going to earn it, every single day." Ryan replied almost immediately, "Now that's the Ethan I believe in." Ethan smiled faintly. For the first time in his life, he felt whole. "Thank you for walking this journey with us step by step, breath by breath, until the very end. If you've made it this far, your heart has stayed open, and for that, I'm deeply grateful." Stories like Ethan's and Claire's remind us of the weight of regret, the miracle of growth, and how love often shows up in the quiet moments, unexpected, imperfect, but real. Maybe that's what second chances are, all about not rewriting the past, but choosing to show up today differently. If this story stirred something in you, even just a little compassion, forgiveness, hope, I'd love to know. Where in the world are you listening from? What part of this story stayed with you the most? Your support, your time, your presence means more than you know. Every view, every comment, every like helps keep these stories alive. If you'd like to see more, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay close. There's so much more to come. Until next time, be kind to your past, gentle with your heart, and curious about what's ahead. With gratitude, see you in the next story.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.